This primary school in Nigeria charges 42 million naira school fees per year. For what? Primary school? 42 million naira? That's about $42,000. Many people would find that to be high even outside of Nigeria, especially for a primary school. The discussion has been wild. People have been saying that that kind of school cannot thrive. No one would be able to afford such a school in Nigeria. Oh, I think that they couldn't be more wrong. And I want to teach you today about something called the business model canvas. So we're going to use this school as our example for understanding the business model canvas. And by the time you're done with this, you would know how to use the business model canvas tool to articulate your business model and to understand how your business actually works. The business model canvas is made up of 9 building blocks. The first is what is known as the customer segment. The customer segments are simply, who are you serving? Who are your target customers? You need to list them out one by one. So for a school such as this one, I would say that their customers would most likely be Nigerians who are living abroad, who are in the diaspora, and who for some reason want their children to school back home, and who can afford it, of course. Another customer segment would be foreigners who live in Nigeria and who would be looking for maybe education that is comparable to what they have at home. Yet another customer segment would be children of rich people in Nigeria. Some of those would be children of politicians. I mean, imagine the child of the governor would have to go to a school somewhere. The child of the president would have to be in a school. So they would want that kind of school. And the same thing would go for the children of business people, top business executives. So those are the customers. The second building block of the business model canvas is what is known as the value proposition. I like looking at the customer segments and the value proposition together because that's the best way to understand them. So what's the value proposition? It's really what you're offering to the customer. What value are you offering to that specific customer segment that makes it a worthwhile deal for them? So let's look at some examples for this. We talked about a customer segment being the children of the rich, politicians, business people. For such people, one of the worries they would have in Nigeria is security. They don't want their children to be kidnapped. So a value proposition would be, look, in our school we have 24/7 police protection. We probably even have DSS personnel on site. Okay, that would be a value proposition. We talked also about Nigerians who are living in the diaspora but who want their children to school at home. So what would the value proposition be? Well, your children are with us in Nigeria, but they're getting the kind of education that they would have gotten abroad. And the same thing works for foreigners who are living in Nigeria. They can rest assured that their children are getting the kind of education that they would have gotten in their home countries. And if I could throw in one added value proposition that would appeal to the rich, well, such schools would have elaborate facilities for sports, for all sorts of things. They would probably go play football in maybe Europe or in America. They would participate in international competitions and stuff like that. When I was growing up, our value proposition was really about academics. We had to pass, we had to do well in our exams. But guess what? The value proposition for you would actually depend on the kind of customer that you are. Then we have another building block, which is the channels. The channels are the mediums through which the value is delivered. In this case, the main medium would be the classroom. Learning is provided through the classroom. And of course, the school facilities, generally speaking, the school buildings, the hostels, the sports facilities, all of those would amount to the channels, because that's how the value proposition is delivered to the customers. There are also the customer relationships. That's really how the business reaches its customers, how it lets them know about their products and their offerings, how it provides customer service to them, how it follows up with them, how it spreads news to them. In this case, we've seen one key customer relationship, and that is the announcement that somebody made, which was, there is this school, 42 million naira. Whether you like it or not, that's a very effective customer relationship, because now that has introduced a prestige factor. That appeals to the parents who can afford it, because now they feel that if my child attends that school, it shows that I've arrived, which, by the way, would be another value proposition. So there's the customer relationship of that announcement, and it has gone viral on social media. But there are other customer relationships. I believe that such a school would have a dedicated helpline. They would have advisors that parents can talk to. They would have email channels and social media and things like that. Essentially, because they would be dealing with potentially very busy parents, they would prioritize things like phone calls to the parents and having personalized relationships with such parents. Now let's look at the key activities. Key activities are the essential tasks and operations that a company must perform to deliver its value proposition. I believe that for a school, the key activities would revolve around prospecting for students, teaching, of course, managing children, all of the sporting activities, all of the competitions they would be involved in. Another building block is the key resources. So what are the key resources? The key resources are the assets, the capabilities, the infrastructure that are required to deliver the value proposition, to reach the customers, to maintain the business. So all of the things that are needed would fall under the key resources. Obviously, for this school, we would be talking about things like the school building, and I learned that they're building a very extensive campus. They would also need other resources like human resources, members of staff. They would definitely need a lot of money. So all of that would fall under key resources. And then there are the key partnerships. The key partnerships are the external entities, meaning that the people or the organizations on the outside of that business that the business needs to partner with in order to make its value proposition possible or to enhance that value proposition. So in the case of this school, we would be talking about marketing firms, we would be talking about security firms, maybe even the police force. They would need to partner with banks because they would probably be doing a lot of international transfers. They would also need to partner with the Ministry of Education or the different ministries of education, both for Nigeria and for whatever foreign curricula they may be offering. So those are key partnerships. Under that column, you list all the partners, at least all of the major ones that your business will have. And then we have the cost structure. Essentially, that's where is the money going? What is going to cost the business money? So the cost structure outlines all the expenses by the company in operating its business model. In this case, we would be talking about fixed costs like the building. We would be talking about other recurring costs such as payment of staff, costs for maintenance of facilities, costs for the different activities, all the competitions, the sporting events, and the different things that they need to do to keep the school running. All those would fall under the cost structure. And then the last one would be the revenue stream. The revenue stream is the interesting part as far as I'm concerned as a business person. That is the building block that addresses how money comes in. So for this school, money would come in mostly through the payment of school fees, but I also envisage that they would have revenue streams like donations. Yes, donations. You would be surprised that some of the most expensive schools still get donations. Ask Harvard. They might also sell materials, they might get grants. So, those are revenue streams. Essentially, how is money going to come in? Now, the interesting thing is that by the time you complete this business model canvas, you're going to find out something. You know what that is? The business model canvas for a school like this would be significantly different, particularly when you're talking about things like the customer segments and the value propositions and maybe the channels and customer relationships. You'll find out that it is significantly different from that for a regular school. Why is it different? The audiences are different. And so what you're offering the people in those audiences are fundamentally different. And that is why you can put two businesses doing exactly the same thing in the same location, and yet one is profitable while the other one is struggling. It all boils down to the model. And this gets even more interesting. It means that if you don't understand your model, your business might be struggling, not because it has bad products or is providing a poor service, but maybe it is reaching the wrong people, or maybe there's a mismatch between your customer segments and your value propositions. And if that is the case, there's a possibility that your cost structure will be higher than necessary or lower than necessary, and that might ultimately affect your revenue. And so it is necessary to understand each of the key elements of the business model canvas. So, why not take out a pen and paper and try to construct your own business model canvas today? My name is Olumide Adeleye and I'm the Business Analysis Coach. Head over to my website, businessanalysiscoach.com, to see my classes on business analysis, and click on that subscribe button so that you can get more of my content. I hope to see you in my very next video.